So I want to tell you a story. Last Sunday, my plan after church for the afternoon was simple. I was going to park myself on my couch and watch professional golf's FedEx Cup playoffs. And then, as many of us are familiar with, my phone buzzes. It's a text from somebody who lives in our neighborhood. And it says, "Hey, Jim, we've just found a house that we love. Will you come over and help us make an offer? And if our offer is accepted, we need you to list our house as soon as possible." Well, here's the thing. We hadn't shown them any houses. So 2 hours later, instead of watching golf, I'm sitting on the couch in their living room and we're putting the offer together. Fast forward to Monday, they get the house. And now we've already, on Monday, started putting the wheels in motion to get their house on the market. Now, here's the question. Why did they call me instead of the agent who sold them their current home just 6 years earlier? And that's really, the answer to that question is really why we're here today. And the answer in this case was because we had met them, or I had met them 2 years before at one of the events in our farm, and we've been building a relationship with them. So when they thought of real estate, they thought of us. So that one simple text was worth over $50,000 in commission income. So what I want you to hear today is that farming can be one of the most consistent sources of business that you can generate in your real estate career. Here's one of the beautiful things that I love about it is that most of the business that we get from our farm is from people who call us, not the other way around. There's not many forms of lead generation, at least that I've experienced in my career, where that's the case. So, but you have to do it consistently. And what I want to just share with you a little bit is kind of how we got to where we were from where to where we are now. 15 years ago was when we started farming our neighborhood. But at that point, we were very inconsistent in the things that we did. So we were generating on average probably $20,000 a year in commission income. And that's because I believed the myth that farming takes too long and it costs too much money. But then I read Gary Keller's book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and what I learned from that is that myth isn't true. Lead generation doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and when it applies to farming, it doesn't have to take that long. So in 2020, I created a very simple marketing plan, and I followed it month after month. So in less than 3 years, we went from earning $20,000 a year in commissions in our farm to over $400,000 a year. And in just the last 3 years, we've generated almost $1.2 million in commission income, and that's just from our farm. So I want to share with you how we've done it and how you can apply what we've done, hopefully, to use back in your farming efforts if you choose to do that. And when I talk about farming today, because there are different kinds of farming, we're talking about geographic farming. So that's where you pick a specific area, and oftentimes it's a neighborhood, and it may be a neighborhood you live in, but it doesn't have to be, and you market to that. So we have 9 core tactics that we followed. The first is we plan our marketing a year in advance. So for example, last year, we mapped out every monthly postcard that we wanted to send, what it was going to say, and what it would look like. And then we planned all of our events, when they would be and what they were going to look like. And that's really critical because as we get busy, as we all do from time to time, you don't want to be making those decisions in the spring market, for example, or the fall market. The second thing is we stay consistent. This is one of the absolute keys to farming. So for us, that's making sure we send out our monthly postcards. And because we've already decided the year before what they're going to be, it eliminates all the decisions. So it reduces the temptation that we have when we're busy to say, well, I don't have time to figure out what this postcard in April is going to be and what it needs to look like. All you have to do if you've planned the year ahead or the year in advance is you just have to hit the order button. So that is absolutely key, staying consistent. The third is we know every house in the neighborhood that comes on the market. And we know them because we either show it to a buyer or we go through and preview it, because we want to know the comps better than our competition and certainly better than our neighbors. We've learned the nuances of the neighborhood. That's things like which streets sell for more, which for less. Maybe the different pricing differentials based on the phases of the neighborhood. For example, in our neighborhood, we have about 526 homes. Most of those were built prior to 1980, but there's one section built in the mid to late 90s that has 9-foot ceilings versus the older homes, which have 8. And they sell for more because of that. The average agent who doesn't know our neighborhood may not understand that type of difference. So that type of hyper-local knowledge is what allows us to price and market our listings better than our competition. And it also, I think, better enables us if we're just lost the word, if we're negotiating with another agent in a cross sale. The fifth thing is we make ourselves present. We walk our dog 1 to 2 times a day. And because of that, we have these great organic conversations with other people we run into who are walking, or maybe they're just out working in their neighborhood. We volunteer at HOA events. That's both a great way to come from contribution, but also as a way to just connect with people that we might not see that often. I drive the golf cart and not the car. What do I mean by that? Anytime I'm going somewhere in the neighborhood, I choose to drive the golf cart that we have, because if I see somebody walking on the street and I want to speak to them, it's a whole lot easier to pull a golf cart over and have a conversation than it is to pull my car over, roll the window down, and try to have this awkward conversation where I'm looking up at them, right? I also find that I can cover more ground in my golf cart than I can walking and maybe have more conversations. I make regular phone calls. So over the years, we've come into relationships with a number of people in our farm, and they hit our MET database, right? Those are the people we define as people in our database who we're in a two-way relationship with. So every quarter, I'm calling those people from the farm who are in our MET database, and I'm talking to them about one of 3 things usually. I'm giving them an update of what's going on in the neighborhood. Maybe I'm checking in with them, see how they're doing personally, or how their family is doing. Or I ask this simple question. The question is, who do you know who's thinking about selling their home in the neighborhood? And what I get from that potentially is to uncover some homes that haven't hit the market yet. And then I'm calling those people to see if we can be the one that they hire. The 8th thing is the golden letter. Once a year, we send this letter on our company letterhead with our home address as the return address, so that people recognize that it's from somebody in the neighborhood. And it just simply says this: would you be willing to sell your house to a client of mine? The phone calls that we've gotten from those letters has been tremendous. Now, a lot of the phone calls are from people who aren't necessarily selling right away, but they're going to be selling in the near future. That allows us to go ahead and start building a relationship with them so that when they are ready, we're the ones they hire. About a month ago, we sent out a golden letter to specific homes in the neighborhood. We have 2 different clients looking for a ranch. We don't have a lot of ranches in our neighborhood. So we sent out the golden letter just to them. And 2 weeks ago, we picked up 2 new listings just on that letter. Maybe we sent 100 letters. The 9th thing is we maximize the opportunity for face-to-face conversations. Now, I want you guys to hear this. This is really important. The best free form of lead generation in your farm is door knocking. And it's not only the best free form, it is the quickest way to start getting business when you're starting to farm. Gene Rivers, I heard him a few years ago speak about that. That was for him he felt like the hallmark of their success in their farming efforts. Unfortunately, in our neighborhood, we're not allowed to door knock. But my MAPS coach gave us a great idea when we were talking about that, and I was concerned about how I was going to be able to maximize face-to-face conversations. And he said, well, why don't you start doing events? So events have really become, for us, the secret sauce of our domination. It gives you a great way to connect in a low-pressure, high-value environment. Now, some examples of events that don't even cost that much, think like a pumpkin carving contest, or a community food drive, or maybe a neighborhood garage sale, or a Halloween pet parade. The key with the events is you've got to make them rinse and repeat so that they're easy to replicate on an annual basis, and you want to make them memorable. It's a great way to build genuine community, and I would encourage you to, that's what your focus should be, is on building more community in your neighborhood, not trying to lift yourself up as a salesperson. We first started doing events in late 2020, early 2021, and what we found, this was just by accident, was that people, because we were sort of coming out of COVID, people were starved for community. And in our neighborhood, the HOA wasn't hosting any events. And so it is, I mean, this happens every month. I run into somebody in a neighborhood, and I may not even know them. They say, thank you so much for hosting events in the neighborhood, because it gives them a chance to connect with people maybe they don't see very often, or maybe it's a way for them to connect to somebody new who's moved into the neighborhood. So some of the events that we do 4 big ones a year. We start off the year with a Cinco de Mayo party. The second one we do is a back to school ice cream social. I missed one. We do a 4th of July cookout in between those two. And then we end it with a pie giveaway. Now, we've made our events so that the only thing really that changes is the theme. So we hire a DJ, we have a food truck, we have lots of drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. All of that's free. We'll have a bounce house, or depending on the time of year, maybe a water slide, and we have other games for the kids. We provide tables and chairs, because our goal is that we want people to just show up. And they've told us that's what they love. They're not paying for anything. They don't have to bring folding chairs or anything like that. And the reason that we go to the expense of doing all the kids stuff is that what we found, and this was just kind of by accident, was if the kids are having fun, the parents will stay. And if the parents stay, then you can have more conversations. So our events usually run like 2 to 3 hours. And my whole goal, and my wife's whole goal, who works with me, is we try to mingle and talk to as many people as we can, particularly people we've never met before. We also, in addition to our in-person events, we do have raffles throughout the year. Those are kind of a low-cost way to have what we call an event. Now, obviously, we're not having face-to-face conversations in that case, but we get people to sign up, and they're required to give us all their contact information, and they have to answer 3 questions. Those questions are, do you have any plans in the near future to buy or sell? Secondly, do you know anyone who has plans in the near future to buy or sell? And then thirdly, would you like to know what your home is worth in this market? I heard, I don't remember Nick's last name, yesterday when Marcus was speaking about AI, and on his website, it was, what is your home really worth? I think we're going to change that. I love that. That's great, right? But here's the thing. If they answer yes to any of those 3 questions on our sign up, then they're going to get extra drawings into our raffle, extra entries, I guess. And then lastly, we're going to be calling them within the next couple of days to follow up. So from our raffles, even though they're not in person, even though we don't have face-to-face conversations, we're still adding people to our database, and we're still able to build relationships. Now, I don't want you to think that events have to cost a lot of money. You hear ours, they're pretty elaborate. But here's the thing, you can get sponsors for your events. And those sponsors can reduce the cost, or in some cases, I know agents who are hosting events like ours, and they're eliminating the cost entirely. We've chosen not to get sponsors because I want people to know that we're the host and we're the only host. And because of the price point in our neighborhood, we can afford to do that. But as far as sponsors, think about obviously some of your vendors. That could be a home inspector, that could be a title company, that could be an insurance agent. But also think about businesses, service providers who do business, have customers in your neighborhood. So that could be like a lawn care company, or that could be a pest control service. And then here's my favorite. Think about if it's a neighborhood you live in where you know people, think about other small business owners like you. So that could be like an estate planning attorney. That could be a CPA. That could be a dentist. That could be a physical therapist, right? Like those people probably would love the opportunity to get their names out. Here's another bonus that we've discovered that's happened just because we are now the #1 agent in the neighborhood. And that's that we now have people calling us who want to live in the neighborhood. And they're hiring us. We've got right now 5 different buyer clients who have hired us. And the reason is because they figure that if we dominate the neighborhood, that we're probably likely to know of homes before they hit the market. And that's often true. So the point of that is that we think about farming as always a way to generate listings, but it can also generate buyer business as well. So just in closing, if you're willing to do consistent touches like the postcards, you could even do hand-delivered flyers if you can't afford the expense of postcards. And you combine that with face-to-face conversations along with building deep market knowledge in your neighborhood, you're going to become indispensable. Like the couple who texted me on Sunday, you'll be the first person they think about when they think of real estate. So dominating your farm in 3 years or even less, like we have, is absolutely doable. It's not a fantasy. The question really is, are you willing to do the things necessary, and are you willing to do them consistently in order to make that happen?